Okay, so the poet's work who I'm going to be analyzing for this is Robert Crawford. He's a very famous Scottish poet. The three works I'm going to be analyzing are Same Difference, The Marble Quarry, and Clandonald's Call, A Battle at Harlaw. I'm going to be talking about each of these works individually and then making a synthesis on all three of them put together. Then Kadani and James will ask questions or provide commentary afterwards. So, Same Difference is one of Crawford's most well-known works. This poem, along with many of Crawford's others, is relatively short, being made up of only 3 short stanzas. 2 of them are 7 lines, and the last one is only 2 lines. In a critical analysis of the work by Aisha Farr, she states, "It is also a fitting metaphor for the effect of reading Crawford's poetry, the sense of embarking on a journey with the poet. This leads me to believe that, as I had hoped, this work will provide a true glimpse into the window of Crawford's mind. Despite the brevity of this poem, it is still capable of conveying a significant theme of individuality, and provides readers with a glimpse into how Crawford may think or perceive the world around him. In the first stanza, Crawford talks about individuality and stresses its existence. He compares individuality to snowflakes, stating, "A snowflake's double can't be found." In the next stanza, Crawford continues on with the theme of individuality. He mirrors what he says in the first stanza, both in wording and in concept. For example, he says, "A high cloud's double cannot be found," of course only replacing the word snowflake with high cloud. The poem ends with, "A world of difference flecks each world, nature abhors a Henry Ford." In this stanza, Crawford makes it seem as if individuality is inherent and not by anyone's choice. Crawford is, of course, referring to Henry Ford's assembly line used to create several identical automobiles. 1, 2, Crawford obviously highly values individuality, as clearly evident by this specific poem. He compares individuality to snowflakes and high clouds. Snowflakes are often associated with beauty, and clouds may be representative of something praiseworthy and lofty. Crawford also states that nature abhors a Henry Ford, going as far as to say something created just like another is unnatural. Next up, we have another one of his famous works titled The Marble Quarry. The Marble Quarry, although another well-known work of Crawford, does not share anything else in common with Same Difference. Other than the poem's length, Marble Quarry is only 1 stanza, which is 16 lines long. To summarize the poem quickly, Crawford brings his son to the Marble Quarry, which is the same place his own father bought him years before. Crawford goes into great detail about the quarry, saying, "Afternoon heat streams from the marble, white light chipped from the earth." Crawford then ends the poem referring to his son, saying, "I pick a piece that fits my hand and hand it to him gingerly. It fits his hand too." There are several ways this poem can be interpreted, as a message from a father to a son, or even as a display of the beauty of a place that is close to Crawford. However, how I interpreted the poem was how the son is destined to be like his father and perhaps follow in his footsteps. Crawford was brought to the quarry by his father and in turn brings his own son to a place he gives a quality of great beauty. The stone Crawford holds, which fits perfectly in his hand and then matches his son's own hand, this is how Crawford creates a visible bond between generations through a tradition not only between father and son, but between grandfather and grandson, as Crawford's father brought him there as well. This bond seems to be demonstrated through the similarity between father and son, as symbolized by the quarry and the stone which fits both hands. Being a modern poet in a generation where it is widely accepted that fathers are irrelevant to the lives of their sons, according to psychology today, Crawford underscores a father-son relationship to the extent that he does in The Marble Quarry, demonstrating that in a society with a conflicting opinion to his own, Crawford holds steadfast in his beliefs. This poem stood out to me since it is so sharply contrasted with a significant theme of individuality highly stressed in Same Difference, because in this poem, Crawford wants his son to be just like him. At this point, a recurring theme in Crawford's work is starting to become clear, which is also especially evident when reading in his later work, Clandonald's Call, A Battle at Harlaw. It appears that Crawford's focus is towards the general nature and traits of an individual. In Same Difference, he stresses the trait of independence, while in The Marble Quarry, he adopts a like-father, like-son attitude. In Clandonald's Call, A Battle at Harlaw, the work is relatively long compared to Crawford's others. It refers to a well-known family of Scottish bards, the MacMurrough bardic family. The poem starts addressing the clan of Conn, telling them strength from the eye of the storm, which in this context with the rest of the poem, I interpret it as a message to be strong and have the willpower to conquer despite conflict, hence the eye of the storm representing conflict. Crawford then proceeds with a list-like poem of everything his audience is capable of and what they can be. For example, Crawford says, "Be hard men, be hurriers," and then continues on later saying, "Be regal, be roaring boys." Crawford is telling his audience who they can be, and there seems to be limitless possibilities from warriors to kings. Through this work, Crawford is breaking chains of limitation, setting limitless potential and possibilities for everyone else. This contrasts greatly with the messages that can be perceived from the previous 2 works we discussed. According to a literary analysis, the Battle of Harlaw has mostly been remembered for the large number of casualties, so the poem could have acted as a rallying cry for the discouraged soldiers at the battle, which adds more to the weight of the inspiring message of the poem. Rather than being a simple inspirational message, the poem takes on a whole new meaning in this context as a sort of rallying cry. As concluded before, in Same Difference, he stresses the trait of independence, while in The Marble Quarry, he adopts a father-like-son attitude. But in both, Crawford underscores a certain trait or specific way in which an individual is expected to act or how they're expected to exist. In conclusion, Crawford does not have one set way people are supposed to be. He stresses people to be individuals and as unique as snowflakes in one work, but in the next he adopts an attitude of following the footsteps of one's own father and having his son follow him. Clandonald's call to battle at Harlaw seems to be a new idea opposed to both in Same Difference and The Marble Quarry. This seems to be almost a conclusion, an inspiring one. It being a message of conquering despite the person and a message of unlimited potential. Okay, so I have two guests with me today, Kadani and James, and they're going to provide commentary, ask questions, say if they agree with me or disagree with me. So, Kadani, what do you have to say first?
So for Robert Crawford, it seems like the themes behind each poem is overall, it's like under the umbrella of like human nature.
Mm-hmm.
And I do agree that like the first poem, Same Difference, was like about individuality, especially when he brings up the snowflakes. You know how like every snowflake is different.
Yeah.
Yeah. And about the second poem, about following your father's footsteps, and then the third poem about being whatever you want to be.
Mm-hmm.
It's all just like about like human behavior and human nature. So that's what I think about Robert Crawford, and it's probably what he based all of his poems about.
Interesting. All right. James?
Okay, so Ethan, I don't think that he's stressing independence as much as what you said before with the individuality. So I don't think independence is as important to him as just someone being an individual. Like, I think that he views them as two separate phenomenons.
Oh, yeah, I understand. All right, so next up we have Kadani with an analysis on Alan Jenkins and his work.
Okay, so my name is Kadani, and I'll be analyzing Alan Jenkins' poems. And these poems, Players Navy, Whitechapel, and Late Show, are from a collection that he did called 5 Poems. And they're just, like, random poems that he put in, like, a collection, like, of his experiences or things that he was interested in.